Well, bet on you. Welcome to the chapters 6 and 7. And for those of you tuning in on Instagram for the first time, welcome. For those who don't know, my name is Laban Ditchburn, and I am the proud author of the book Bet on You, which is my memoir self-help book of overcoming addiction in all its facets. Gambling and drinking and drugs and philandering and limiting beliefs and negative self-talk and all of those destructive things that will cause major challenges in your life if you don't deal with them. And so what I wanted to do was a couple of chapters at a time, or a chapter here and there over the course of what is 22 chapters, to live read the book and to share with you at the end of the chapter really what was going on in my mind at the time and recreating some of those thoughts, and maybe you'll find some parallels with what you're experiencing in your life. So if you've missed out on the first 5 chapters, this is live stream, but it's available on the YouTube channel Become Your Own Superhero, which is the name of the podcast that I host, one of 2 podcasts that I'm involved with, and you can get on there and watch the recordings if you would so desire. The book is available on Amazon everywhere in the world, and it's available in Audible in my dulcet tones. The link for Instagram is in the link tree. You can get it there in my profile, or just get on Amazon and search for Bet on You with Laban Ditchburn. It'll come up immediately, and you can pick the Kindle version for immediate delivery, paperback like this, depending where you are in the world, or the Audible version. So this chapter that I'm going to read for you, the first of 2 chapters, the first chapter is the Cocaine Olympics. And I know a number of you watching might be sitting there in absolute horror saying, hey, you can't say things like that and in public. Well, you know what people think of me is none of my business, and you know what, and if it helps one person, then that's the whole point, really. Chapter 6, the Cocaine Olympics. After 6 months with the psychologist, I had started to make solid improvements, but I was still very much a work in progress. However, I was starring in my first television-style acting role, and my spirits were high. I was the lead actor in a commercial for an anti-violence initiative. The organisation Step Back Think was created after a local Melbourne boy in Australia, James McCready Bryan, was left with permanent brain damage after a stranger attacked him without provocation on his 20th birthday. The goal of the organisation was aimed at the prevention of what's commonly known as a king hit. It involves punching someone in the head, usually from behind, and knocking the victim unconscious. Most of the damage is done when they slump unconscious at speed and hit the concrete awkwardly. It has since been more accurately rebranded as a coward punch. Not only was the opportunity to play the lead part exciting and positive for me, but it was also for a great cause. Alongside the excitement of my newfound fame, I had been invited to a friend's birthday party in the city. I rushed straight from work and neglected to put any food in my stomach. With a large bar tab on offer, I launched straight into the hard liquor. Within 60 minutes, I had easily drunk enough for 2 people. I should have called it a night and been happy with that. But for the millionth time in my life, I would rather die than go home early and miss out on all the fun. I was drunk enough to know that I needed at least one of 2 things. A, something starchy, or B, something cocaine-y. I got wind that someone had Bolivian marching powder, and within minutes I had quite literally sniffed them out. Grabbing the miniature Ziploc bag, I darted into the men's bathroom and locked myself away in an imaginary fortress. Plunging a makeshift spoon, my house key, into the bag, I wiggled it around and heaped as large an amount as was physically possible onto it. With the precision of an eye surgeon, I withdrew the key perfectly from the bag and proceeded to jam the entire contents into my left nostril. My spare pinky finger held the right nostril closed as I snorted as hard as my lungs would allow, inhaling with such gusto the embossed Yale imprint on the key nearly lifted out. As the powder made its way deep into my nasal cavity, I repeated the process with my opposite nostril and allowed the drug to take effect. If you've never taken cocaine, the closest I can describe my own experience is that feeling you get when you see yourself on the television. You know, in the background during a news report or 3 seconds of your opinion piece when you told everyone you know to tune into Channel 7 so they could watch you in action. It's a nearly instantaneous euphoria followed by a sharp miniature panic attack. Your heart beats so fast that Greta Thunberg appears out of nowhere and starts charging her pink Tesla Model 3 from your fingertips. I can't tell you how many times I have blatantly ignored serious health symptoms that would hospitalise most people whilst ingesting drugs. That's why I really did cocaine by itself, as I needed the numbing effect of alcohol to level me out a little bit. As the devil's dandruff absorbed into my bloodstream, I immediately snapped out of my drunken stupor and transformed into an articulate, witty, hilarious and debonair young man. I checked my nose for residue, swaggered out of the bathroom and headed back towards my pals. If you've ever observed any flagrant drug use, you'll likely identify with this story with an agreeable nod. People taking drugs in toilets these days are about as subtle as an axe. That articulate, witty, hilarious and debonair young man I described was far from any of those characteristics. Yes, your ability to tolerate alcohol improves, but if you go too far, the wheels spin off in all directions. I felt a firm hand grab my shoulder and I spun around expecting to see one of my hilarious friends.
"I'm sorry, sir, but you have to leave,"
bellowed the 6'8" giant of a man. "And for what reason?" I belligerently spat, several droplets of my own saliva projecting onto his barrel chest.
"You've had too much to drink and you have to leave."
"That's horseshit," I said. "I'm perfectly fine." No sooner had I declared my sobriety than I removed my favourite blue t-shirt in protest. I started swinging it around my head like a deranged Greenpeace activist.
"Right, you're out of here, punk."
Resistance was futile, so I headed towards the exit stairs that led out to the main street. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, the bouncer bid me farewell with a rather loud,
"Get the fuck out of here."
Now, I may have been intoxicated, breaking all the rules and high on illegal substances, but I certainly would be spoken to like that. "You get the fuck out of here." Chapter 8 or 7. Police cops. 6 uniformed police officers standing around the main entrance of the bar all turned and looked at me. "Oi, you just watch your language, son," one of the cops yelled back at me. The reptilian part of my brain took over just long enough for me to do something really silly. "Oh yeah? Go fuck yourself," I screamed back, momentarily catching them off guard with my outrageous proclamation. Their years of training kicked in and I immediately sensed trouble. One officer lurched towards me as I spun on my heels and Usain bolted off in the opposite direction. Stunned passers-by soon realised they were witnessing a real-life police chase, and rather than try to subdue me, they yelled encouragement, whooping and yahooing their speedy protagonist. I could hear police footsteps pounding behind me, but I dropped the hammer and gave it all I had. Despite my portly figure, I was fast once I was up and going. The footsteps trailed off and faded away into nothing. Had I achieved Shawshank Redemption with an Annie Dufresne style of freedom? Plus, isn't escaping from a police pursuit a bucket list event for everyone? Tick. I'd travelled well over 400 yards at that point. Not even the world's fittest runners could sustain the pace I was setting, especially when plied with drugs and alcohol. The footpath on which I ran was part of a larger arcade where the main tram systems run down the middle. This, as it turns out, was a fantastic location for police cars to drive down. To my horror, 4 patrol cars sped past me in the section where the trams would usually be, and I knew at that point I was running out of options. Using all my cunning, I noticed a dark alleyway on the opposite side. I doubled back across the tram lines and headed towards this fantastic hiding spot. Nuzzling into that amazingly discreet cubbyhole, I shrunk into the smallest ball of a human I could contort. Up to that point, I thought I'd escaped scot-free. Then I heard the deafeningly loud police megaphone burst into life.
Freeze! Come out with your hands where I can see them!
Perhaps they're yelling at someone else? I thought optimistically.
You! With the blue t-shirt!
Okay, that narrowed it down. The numbers were certainly stacked against me. It probably was me they were after.
You! Come out now!
The shape of a police-issued handgun is a very distinctive one, and the sight of one being pointed at your face evokes a few different emotions, like the popular "do what you're told, Ditchburn" emotion. Equally, having a gun pointed at your face also triggers the rapid tightening of the sphincter muscle. Had I not gone earlier that night, I suspect I would have been arrested for at least one count of soiling my pants. So, like a tulip opening in the springtime, I slowly unfolded out of my cocoon and revealed myself to the world. Boom! I was tackled from behind, and before I even knew what was happening, I was face down with my wrists firmly secured and handcuffs behind my back. I channeled a lifetime of television memories in a vain attempt to remember how to break out of handcuffs. Nope, nothing. It required two items I didn't have anyway: a hair clip and shoulder flexibility. And sometimes in life, you just know when to call it quits. I haven't felt many moments of helplessness in my life, but that was one. It must have been a slow night because I was eventually surrounded by what felt like every police officer in Melbourne. It was like that final scene out of the Blues Brothers movie when Jake and Elwood pay the $5,000 to City Hall and then find themselves with a peacock's tail of guns pointing at them. Always the comedian, I politely asked the cop, "What seems to be the problem, officer?" The guns were away at this point, so my chances of being shot in the face had dramatically reduced. Someone fitting my description had coward punched someone right near where I launched my escape, and I was the main suspect. Mind you, in 2015, bald with a beard described every 35-year-old male in Australia. I chuckled to myself at the irony of what had just happened. The cop asked me what was so funny. I carefully explained that I was the lead actor in a very important anti-coward punch campaign. The look on his face was one of pure disbelief. Even I will admit it sounds unbelievable, but whilst they were checking for outstanding arrest warrants, one of the cops pulled out his phone and called my bluff on the video. Two of them watched my artistic genius whilst I remained on my knees. Then they both turned their attention to their walkie-talkies. Headquarters had radioed through that the actual violent perpetrator had been picked up at another nearby location, so my alibi stood firm. I avoided being arrested that night by a bee's dick, and I'm super appreciative that they didn't press charges, even if it was under wasting police time. In terms of stupidity, that's right up there. And not just a risky situation. I found out later that the nightclub I was at is directly opposite one of the largest police stations in Victoria. I called it a night and made my way home sheepishly. I crawled into bed and drifted off to sleep, lingering traces of adrenaline causing my eyes to occasionally flick open. The following morning, the sun light-sabered its way into my room and a disturbing pounding noise emanated from the house. I craned my neck around but couldn't see anything obvious. It didn't take long to realise that the rather large beating drum was actually in my head. Boom, 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 boom. Just like the Venga Boys used to sing. My brain quickly scanned for all possible medical issues. Diagnosis: a grade 5 hangover. I had managed one many times before and knew how to handle it. The associated grogginess would eventually dissipate, but what I didn't account for was the huge waves of anxiety that swept over me. Broken memories from a previous night came flooding back, and I cringed regretfully at my behaviour. I was, for all intents and purposes, a well-adjusted human being. Yet I had just acted like Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange. This was a pivotal moment in my life. I had cut it way too close to the danger zone, and I was riding Lady Luck just a little too hard. Laban's random lessons. I'm not saying don't have fun, but before things get out of hand, ask yourself, if I was on the receiving end of this behaviour, how would I feel? And if I'm not the one doing it, am I encouraging it by saying nothing? Since making a much more concerted effort to surround myself with higher quality people, these types of behaviours are no longer acceptable to me. Steve Marabelli, who wrote Life, the Truth and Being Free, said, "The right thing to do and the hard thing to do are usually the same." Well, thank you very much for tuning in, and I really hope you enjoyed that live reading of those 2 chapters. And my goodness, it's taking me back to that period of my life. I would have these experiences, and I would turn up to work on Monday and like swan around the office and go on coffee dates with my colleagues and go and have lunch, and most of them were none the wiser, I don't think. I may have told the odd person here and there, but certainly would have diluted it down. And you don't need to be in the gutter, homeless and completely destitute to be at rock bottom. And I really look back at that period of my life as a really fascinating journey, because like the older I was getting, the more stupid stuff I was doing, right? And it was always fueled by alcohol or drugs and alcohol, or any combination thereof. And there's no judgment. There's no judgment from my end to anyone that goes out and does that. But I got off really lucky. I was a very charismatic drunk compared to some people that I used to kick around with. And I mean, charismatic and drunk don't really fit in the same sentence, but I could talk my way out of a few things, and that certainly was the case on that situation. You don't need to be a rocket surgeon to figure that out, but it was only a matter of time before something terrible was going to happen. So I'm going to end on this final thought. For those that don't know who I am and what I do, and have just tuned in here for the first time, my mission in life is to be known as the world's most positively influential speaker. And I do that by being the world's best courage coach. And the world's best courage coach is nothing to do at all with ego. It's a declaration that I've made to myself. And every single morning I wake up and I ask myself, how would the world's best courage coach conduct himself? And that declaration has been profound in my life. It's been profound on the people close to me and the people that are exposed to this, in how beneficial it's been. And at the moment, I have 3 positions to take on coaching clients for 3 months maximum. More than likely at this point, there will be an opportunity to extend in certain circumstances. But if you are looking for someone to hold your hand, metaphorically, if you know that you're looking to do something more impactful with your life, and maybe you don't know where to start, this is what I love working with people. And I reached out for so much help in the last few years, and you've heard me say this a lot. Les Brown says, ask for help, not so that you appear weak, but so that you can remain strong, and keep asking for help until you get it. And I've been so blessed and have called in so many favors and help from people that are much further along than I am in that journey. And I still have areas of my life that I need help with, so I will reach out and get guidance and invest in myself and part of masterminds, and doing what I can to continually improve. So if this resonates with you, find a way to send me a direct message through Instagram. You can send DMs through the other mediums. It's very straightforward. Like if you want to find me, and we can schedule a time to see whether it's something suitable for you. All right, it's very important that we like each other, and that I know that I can help you. That's the most important thing. So look, if you're not having a great day, I'd encourage you to do so. And if you are, well, keep up the good work, would you?